Good morning, everybody. Uh, it is Monday, 10:54. Beautiful start to the week. Got a lot to unpack today in today's video. I'm going to go over a multitude of things today, some things that we want to look for this week, some prior precedents set in the market, and what we are going to attack this week using what we know in regards to earnings. So let's jump into it as we always do with the backdrop of the market. Today, the market is clinging to a small gain as of right now, this second. We'll jump in real quickly to the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ, kind of just summarizing, had an all-time high again yesterday, gapped up on that strength, and then consolidated here, which I thought was extremely healthy because I think it was about 7% extended over the 50. Typically, when the NASDAQ is more than 6% over the 50, it becomes a little bit stretched and we want to see a little bit of consolidation. I think this was relatively healthy. I'd like to see a strong close today. Jump into Bitcoin. We always at least touch on it. Bitcoin's been getting slammed under all the major moving averages down to 105 today. Looking to see if we break this low of 101. That would be a lower low. That would be in the short term a very bearish sentiment. And I don't have all my technicals pulled up, but I believe the next support area below 101 was down to like 91,000 if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not trading it, so I really don't zone in on it too much. Touching on gold trying to carve out a low here, and I think it might have, even though I think temporarily the gold trade is not something I'm interested in. Trying to see if we can hold this low. If in fact we could hold this low and recapture this 20, that would be a really good sign, and then potentially looking for it as a trade. So we gapped up this morning. Monday morning gaps are always a little nasty, and then got slammed down as to be expected. So I'm going to take you down a path of what we're looking at this week. Let's start off with earnings. So earnings this week, we had Cipher Mining. We'll talk about that in a second. We've got Palantir, the big one, after the bell today, which we have to keep an eye on. Tomorrow, we have AMD after the bell, which I'll be watching very closely. And then Wednesday, Novo Nordisk before the bell, Robinhood after the bell. That interests me quite a bit. Open Door on Thursday after the bell. That also is of major interest to me, and I'll be watching all of that. So this morning was a lot of action, a lot of earnings. We got some action in when it comes to Iris Energy. I talked about this 2 weeks ago, and again, I want to remind everybody we set our stop losses and manage our risk appropriately. And this video is for educational purposes. And in no means is this video a forum to tell you what to buy and what not to buy. This is for educational purposes. In any case, on my prior videos, I talked about how this got slammed down. We waited for the setup. We took it here, trade kind of sideways around, and it gapped up this morning on this, as you can see behind me, this Microsoft news. That's a great move. All data centers are starting to really catch a bid, so to say. So 10% up now. I will say, however, it gapped up a hell of a lot stronger. The high was 75.73, so quite a bit off the high. We got to pay attention to that and see the strength of how that closes. I don't love that move down, but you have to expect with Monday morning gaps are always a concern for me. Cipher again had an unbelievable earnings this morning and just took it on. This is going to be a earnings gap mover. This will be on my earning gap list. This is something that now I don't own it, but I will be watching it and looking to trade it this week. A little extended right here, but again, another one where I want to see how it closes today and the strength of it. So what do we got set up for the week? What we don't have. So let's start from the top. Let's understand kind of the backdrop, and let's kind of touch on a couple things that I want to go over. So as we all know, the market has been making a higher climb. However, we like to look under the hood. The breadth of the market, the backdrop of the market has not been healthy whatsoever the last week. And so what do I mean by that? It's the main movers in the S&P, the NASDAQ are the ones holding this market up. The rest of them are shit. So what I mean by that is I like to go to the RSP because that's an equal weight of the S&P. This index tells you equal weighted of all the actual stocks, the names of these companies. They're equal weighted. So there's no, like other components of the NASDAQ or the S&P, they go off of weight not directed on equality. So to say, the larger the company, the more weight they have, so they can move it and push it up higher. This is equal weight, and equal weight tells you a little bit better story. So I like to look under the hood. Tuesday of last week was one of the worst breadth of markets days on the indicators, and I'm sorry if I'm kind of going off there, but in a long time. So looking a little bit under the hood is what you have to do here when it comes to dissecting the market and the trajectory of where we're going, right? So I don't love that, the layoffs. I'm a little bit conflicted. A lot of these layoffs, like with Amazon and other companies, I think that's more so AI and technology taking place of other professions and not a need. So I don't necessarily equate that to the overall backdrop of the economy. However, still, I need more information. And with the government shutdown, we're still very limited for data. Unfortunately, we still don't have the data. So we're hoping to get the politicians to resolve that this week so we can move that forward. So let's jump into stocks because that's what's the most important here. I'm going to start out with one that I called out 2 weeks ago, and that is Dutch Bros. And Dutch Bros having a nice little day today, up 3%. Really riding that 20 at one point. It really found support here, caught it, and it's riding up. They have earnings on the 5th, so that's in 2 days. So it's going to be Wednesday after the bell. So far, holding strong. I am not trimming. I think I'm going to roll into earnings with my active shares. My calls, I will trim as I get closer to manage my downside risk. However, I think this is set up for a trade. I'd like to see confirmation above this wick, which would be 59.29 will give you confirmation. AMD. So AMD is coming into earnings this week, and they are very extended over the 50. An argument could be made that this is stretched. Now, I personally think they're going to kill earnings, and I think they are going to release China earnings. They're going to talk about different factors, and I think they have so much of a positive trajectory, multiple catalysts. Granted, a lot of this could be baked into the price now. And so my thought for the investors who have been buying it since I've mentioned it quite a bit further back is I think you need to err on the side of caution. I think AMD is going up long term. I don't think I'd be buying this going into the print of earnings. That's my opinion, but easier said for me as I have a great entry point on almost everything I've bought when it comes to AMD. If you're a gambler, I looked at the option chain. The implied move is quite substantial. You can play it. I'm not an earnings guy, so I'm going to tell you I'm going to sell covered calls against my shares, and I will probably exit all my open calls that I got into last week. If I decide to take something as a gamble, great. I think the stock will run into earnings tomorrow, so that's my theory and thought. Do what you feel is best for yourself. Robinhood is coming up on earnings as well. On a technical standpoint, this is starting to look really good. A little cup here, a little handle. Hard not to like this action going into earnings. But again, I always err on the side of caution. I think they have a great earnings. I very well might place something, an evaluated risk. My point to you is I think if you're somebody that's willing to gamble a little bit, I do think they're going to blow up earnings, and I think they're going to go up. It's my opinion, and I think on a technical standpoint, this looks great over the averages. coming back down here now to the 5. On a technical standpoint, you have to love this, and I think this is set up for a move upwards with earnings. But exercise caution. Again, I'm the trader that does not go heavy into earnings. I like the earnings on the backdrop when I'm making my investments and my purchases. Palantir. So I've been singing Palantir's praises. I've been on record saying I think this is going higher and higher and higher. Anybody that's been watching my videos knows I've been saying that for quite some time. So here's the problem with Palantir. There's rumors going around about a stock split today that's going to be announced. It would not surprise me whatsoever if there is a split. I just don't understand a split with this many shares. Talk about dilution. I don't know. This seems crazy for a stock split, though I think it's going to create the stock to pop. I've been playing this through PLTW, and I have sold about 30% of my PLTW shares about an hour ago. I sold quite a bit this morning at the open. On the gap up, I sold 30% or 35% of my shares, and I'm going to run with what I got. I did close out the Palantir calls that I made last week. So I don't have anything open beyond PLTW right now going into this. Um, I'm going to watch the chart for the day, and I might execute some calls if I feel that it's there for me. I need to check the Greeks, and I need to see. I might play it as more of a gamble for the end of the day. I do think they're going to beat and raise. And I do think they're probably going to say something about a stock split, and I think that's going to create the stock to go up in the short term. That not a good sign long term for Palantir, in my humble opinion. But if you want to play something, you could play it. It's today. I'm not advising that. I just told you what I did. Um, do what you feel is best for yourself. United has not been good lately. So I told everybody that dips are to be bought in a constructive manner. Uh, Unfortunately, this move up on earnings was on above average volume right here. Sorry. And that signaled the beginning of the downtrend, and it sliced all the averages on above average volume. I was stopped out of my trades. I now don't own it anymore in trades. The only thing I have is what I invested in my IRA back here. And that's not going anywhere. That's my long-term investment. But I'm out of the trade, and I'm not doing anything until it can get back above the average and reconfirm the setup. That's why I said stop losses. Breaking those averages on above average volume is not what I wanted to see. So I would advise that if you're looking for United, you need to see it get back above the averages and reconfirm the trade before you can do anything. Open has earnings coming up this week. I happen to be very bullish on this. So I have a pretty substantial position. I have this in my IRA. I trimmed calls last week. I am probably going to add calls in a little while if I could get confirmation here. Um, let's go down the path of drawing and bore everybody a little bit here. Man, I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties, but in any case, sorry, I'll go away from that. You have a downtrend line. I think the 840 or 850 mark from what I did over the weekend is the downtrending line. I'd like to see it break above that. A break above that would be healthy. You see it hovering right now. You've got it right around, where is it at right now? Yeah, so it's not too far away from that average. I'd love to see it break above that average, and I think we get an upward move. I think their earnings are going to be positive. The only thing to keep in mind, though, is obviously there's a lot going on with this company, and I'm a believer long term. This company is going up. I think their earnings are going to be positive. I think the people that they lost quite a bit of people that were laid off. I think that's going to help their bottom line. I think they beat and raise. I think the the interest rate cuts are going to help them. I think that the 10-year Treasury bond eventually in a positive manner is going to help them. I think this is setting up for a trade, more on the riskier side on the record here. But yeah, okay. Talk about the trades that I got into last week. SanDisk. SanDisk still looks great. I got in this trade. They're down a little bit less than 2%. I got into this last week. It found support at the 5. So it's right above the 5. It found support this morning at the 5. So it came down literally right at the 5, bounced up. Again, earnings on November 6th, 3 days. I think this is set up. I think this is going to do good. I'm going to stay in this trade through earnings. I don't anticipate getting out of that. Bloom Energy, I bought that one last week. I told you there's a huge demand for energy, for infrastructure and data supply centers. Up today, 7%. So that trade is working out pretty good. Bloom Energy is something I'm going to keep riding. Their earnings are behind them. They did their offering last week. That was behind them. I mentioned their offering was a period of time to which you could potentially buy the stock. I think that was overdone. It took the offering pretty good. I think this is a trade. I'd say this is probably the best one set up this week. I'm in this, and I'm going to keep staying in this, and I'm going to ride the trend until the trend breaks in that regard. All right, now I'm going to go off kill a little bit. It's 16 minutes in. Let's start talking about the backdrop of everything and what we're looking at here. So Netflix, a little bit on the different side. Netflix, so I'm going to go on record here. I think Netflix is done for the time being. Netflix announced a stock split last week. Again, I mean, this amount of shares outstanding for a stock split, I mean, it moved the stock in a temporary manner. I think it's done. I think this is a sign of the backdrop. This was the leader during capitulation. This was your leader that took the market higher. It was the beginning. This was the first one. There's always one. This is the one that started to move before everybody else. I don't like this stock. This is going to set up for a short for me. I will look to short this stock soon. Not yet, but I want to see it lose all its averages. So if you want to see something that's on the short side, this to me is going to be on the short side. And I will look for the opportunity to short that. I could be completely wrong, but I think that stock split is an absurdity. I think that's greed by management. And I think when you have this many shares outstanding, I think that's whatever. Chipotle also, this is another one I've mentioned. I mean, you know, I listened to their earnings report last week, not because I own the stock. I never even traded the stock. I wanted to see what the CEO had to say. And all he did was bitch and moan and whine about everything. I mean, just everything. And so I don't know. There's like a saying with like stocks. It's like, don't tell me about the labor pains or something like that. Show me the baby. Well, nobody gives a shit about your labor pains. Show us the goods. And all they did was complain and cry. Not good. Not a good indication for retail food, I would say. But anyways, at some point, I think this is going to set up for a short. Maybe not yet. I think I'm going to short the shit out of this. I'm going to go on the short side. Here's another one on the other side. So for you guys that are bottom fishers that like to buy weakness, Novo Nordisk is getting sued by Pfizer. Let me give you a little bit of backdrop so you understand that. Pfizer tried to acquire a company, and I'll probably find it here. Yeah, here it is. Metsera. It was a GLP-1 maker. Pfizer's trying to get into the GLP-1 game. Novo Nordisk said, fuck you, not happening. Excuse my language. Not happening. And they offered more money to this GLP-1 maker, a higher bid. I want to say it was like $8.5 billion. Novo Nordisk is flooded with cash. If you don't know who Novo Nordisk is, they are a GLP-1 manufacturer and arguably the second largest to Eli Lilly. Any case, they want to stronghold the market, and Pfizer said, no, we're going to sue you. and Pfizer is now suing them. Here's the thing. This company's fundamentals haven't changed, okay? They have earnings coming up, and I'm not the type of guy to ever buy laggards, and I think there's a market to buy laggards and a market to buy leaders. I think this is the market you buy leaders. But this is a stock that I am putting back on my watch list as a long-term potential investment. I own this company. For some of you that watch this video, you guys know this was probably one of my best trades last year in 2024. I have not been in it for a long period of time, but this is a stock you have to put on your list for a potential recovery and turnaround story. Nothing has changed about this company. Nothing. If you're a little bit ballsy, you could potentially look, and I looked at it for options going out a year and a half, 2 years, if you want to play this that way. This is on my watch list. I'm not in the trade yet, but I definitely am going to look to be in this trade. I think this is ridiculous. I've less than $50 a share for a company like this, who is one of the leaders in a revolutionary drug, who is continuously uh, evolving in their medication with that. I don't know. I think this is an opportunity. It's going to present itself as an opportunity. This is, I don't want to call it like a Warren Buffett stock, but that's what this is. I think this is an opportunity. So in any case, I think take a look at it. Eli Lilly, with that said, now that we're in drugs, I love the drugs. Eli Lilly, what an earnings, and just look at them go. And this is setting up for you really nicely this week. I think a little pullback here to this low here to the top of this wick is an opportunity to get into Eli Lilly on a trade. I think they're going to keep killing it. I think they're also moving forward, and this is also on my watch list. And I think there you have it. I think you've got some opportunity, lots of earnings this week. I think, the backdrop of the market, the breadth is not phenomenal, and I think you need to position yourself accordingly. Buy leaders, don't buy laggards in this market, even though I just showed you a laggard. I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here, but I showed you a laggard. This is the market where you have to be a stock picker. You can't just buy everything because everything isn't going up. Contrary to what everybody believes, the market's making new highs. But if you're not a stock picker, you're not going to be part of that because there's certain stocks that are not going up. So again, keep an eye on everything. Amazon is also on my watch list. Sorry, I should have pointed that out. I actually got into Amazon last week after the earnings, and it gapped up. So I got in here. I'm up a couple percent. But anyways, I think Amazon continues to make, I'm up today 5%. I think Amazon continues to make an upward move. I actually think Amazon is positioned to just kill everybody in the next couple of years with the transition to AI. And with the way the world is changing, I think Amazon is just so well positioned. I love the fact, well, I don't love the fact people are losing their jobs, but I love the fact how they are also just, they're strangle holding the entire market. Hard not to own Amazon, whether you're a trader, you're a long-term investor. If you don't have Amazon in your portfolio, I don't know what you're doing. Well, sorry, again, not financial advice. All right, guys, that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to close it out with saying, I'm going to do a shameless plug here. I use FinViz Elite. This is what I use. I pay for this every month. This is my central hub for investing, and I use it for my screener. I pay, $30 a month for it. In any case, if you guys are very serious in your investing and your trading, this is one of the best tools I've been using for many, many of years. I'm going to post my link in my YouTube bio. I think that's what it is. And if you guys, I think you get a discount if you decide to subscribe to it or use it monthly. I don't know. I think it's like $30 a month. I use it. It really helps me tremendously. Maybe it helps you. If it doesn't, don't use it. But if it does, I think my code gets you a little discount or something, and I stand to benefit a couple bucks. So in any case, all right, I hope you guys had a great week. I'm going to come out with more videos much more frequently as I want to hold myself a little bit more accountable on my trades, and I'm hoping to help people, and I want to take advantage of this upward trajectory. All right, guys, have a great week. Take it easy.